At the beginning of the movie, we see that a zombie virus has devastated the world. Cases are breaking out everywhere across the country. The symptoms can appear within days, or even minutes, and any ordinary person can turn into a mindless monster in the blink of an eye. To make matters worse, these infected are much faster than traditional zombies and can track people by their scent. On that day, the World Health Organization officially declares the outbreak a global pandemic, and the entire world descends into chaos and violence. The only ones who still don't understand the seriousness of the situation are the children. Abby is playing with her little brother as usual, but she can tell that her mother is deeply worried. Their father, a soldier, hasn't returned home for several days. Fearing for his family's safety, he orders his wife to take the children and stay with relatives. The mother quickly packs their belongings and rushes the children to the car. As they leave the house, a zombie suddenly attacks them. Abby barely manages to hide underneath the vehicle, but her mother and brother are brutally attacked. Helplessly, Abby watches as her mother rapidly transforms into a zombie. Moments later, a soldier named Jerry arrives, shoots her mother, tells Abby to cover her ears, and then puts her brother down as well. Many years pass, and Abby grows into a young woman. She is raised under the care of a soldier named Mike, who teaches her every survival skill she needs after the zombie virus wipes out civilization. Human society collapses, and towering skyscrapers gradually become overgrown with vegetation. Mike and Abby plan to settle somewhere near the ocean. One night, while camping deep in the woods, Mike carefully sets traps around their campsite. In the middle of the night, one of the traps is triggered. He immediately wakes up to investigate, and finds a tuft of animal fur caught in the trap, assuming that a wild animal accidentally set it off. Suddenly, a noise comes from the trees. Mike calms the frightened horse and fires toward the sound. When the attacker finally appears, he is shocked to discover that it's a zombie. Without hesitation, Mike and Abby move out quickly. They are well trained and accustomed to surviving in dangerous situations. They don't encounter any more zombies until around noon. While crossing a dirt slope, they spot a nearby vehicle. The driver suddenly jumps out and starts running, only to be ambushed by a zombie. Mike warns Abby not to act recklessly, but she instinctively pulls the trigger. Her bullet accidentally strikes the driver, forcing Mike to finish off the zombie. Afterward, they search the vehicle for anything useful. At that moment, the driver's companions are communicating over a nearby radio. Mike wants to avoid any unnecessary trouble and prepares to leave, but Abby is eager to make contact with other survivors. She waves at the approaching convoy and explains that their friend was attacked. The convoy's leader orders everyone to lower their weapons before sending his men to inspect the area. Despite Abby's repeated attempts to appear friendly, the convoy remains suspicious, and tension quickly rises between the two groups. Just then, a pregnant woman steps out of one of the vehicles and signals for everyone to calm down. Suddenly, strange noises echo from the top of a nearby hill. A horse begins to panic, and within seconds, a massive horde of zombies charges toward them from every direction. The convoy leader orders everyone back into their vehicles, while Mike and Abby stand back to back, firing at the incoming horde. As the zombies continue to swarm them, they draw their swords to conserve ammunition and fight hand to hand, while the convoy members join the battle. The hillside quickly turns into complete chaos. A woman with a ponytail pulls out a Molotov cocktail, but a zombie attacks her from behind. She drops the bottle, which accidentally lands on the pregnant woman's vehicle, making the situation even worse. Meanwhile, a muscular man fights off one of the zombies with incredible strength, but not before being bitten on the shoulder. Realizing that he is infected, the man pulls out his pistol, intending to end his own life before he turns. However, the gun is empty. Moments later, he transforms into a zombie and lunges at the convoy leader. During the chaos, Abby helps the two pregnant women get into the vehicle, while Mike charges into the horde, creating an opening for everyone to escape. As they drive away, the hungry zombies chase after them. After losing most of their supplies, Abby realizes how devastating their losses have been, especially since they have very little ammunition left. Mike asks the pregnant woman where they were originally headed, and she explains that there is a survivor settlement near the river to the northeast. They were planning to seek refuge with its leader. However, Mike has visited many settlements during his journey and knows that most of them don't welcome outsiders, so he has no intention of heading northeast. As Mike attempts to take a different route, their vehicle breaks down. David, the pregnant woman's husband, examines the engine and concludes that it can't be repaired. With no other choice, the group continues on foot. Eventually, they arrive at a community called Sunrise Farm and decide to rest in an abandoned building. Mike enters first to make sure the area is safe. Once he's certain there are no threats, they light a fire inside the house. During their conversation, Abby learns that the convoy had once lived on an isolated farm with around 40 people. Eventually, the farm was overrun by zombies. To stop the horde, they were forced to burn their entire wheat field, leaving them with almost no food supplies. Fortunately, their leader managed to contact another settlement by radio. It was located along the river and was built around a collection of connected boats. The survivors had tied together dozens of damaged boats and created a floating community that was now home to more than 100 survivors. Although food and clean water were still in short supply, they at least had a doctor among them, giving everyone a reason to hope. After discussing the situation, the convoy decides to change its destination. After hearing the pregnant woman's story, Abby tells the group that she and Mike are planning to reach the west coast, find a boat, and search for a refugee camp. At that moment, Mike finishes setting up the traps outside the building before spreading out a map to show David and his wife the route to the boat town. He doesn't want to escort them all the way there because they've just fought off a massive zombie horde, and the infected could still be tracking their scent. Right now, the only thing they need to do is get as far away as possible. Abby believes they've already put enough distance between themselves and the zombies, but Mike insists it isn't nearly enough. She doesn't understand why he's being so harsh and argues that Boat Town might actually be a good place to live. Mike, however, remains firm, warning her not to trust strangers so easily or create unnecessary problems like she did earlier that day. That night, thunder rumbles across the sky as lightning flashes through the forest. A group of zombies wanders past and discovers Mike's abandoned vehicle, proving that the infected still retain a certain level of intelligence. Meanwhile, David can't sleep. He twisted his leg while escaping earlier, but keeps the injury hidden from his wife because he doesn't want to worry her. Eventually, Mike begins to sympathize with the couple and offers to personally guide them to Boat Town. While standing on the rooftop, Abby hears a zombie nearby and quickly gathers her gear to warn Mike. By the time she reacts, however, the zombies have already slipped inside the building. Abby chases one of the zombies until she reaches a shattered window. She grabs onto the iron bars, and the zombie can't stop in time, crashing through the opening and falling outside. Mike arrives just in time to pull Abby back inside, but an entire horde has already reached the entrance. As they're about to break in, one of the zombies accidentally triggers a trap, causing a massive explosion. Mike and the others use the confusion to escape the area. Suddenly, Abby remembers visiting this place as a child. If her memory is correct, there's a small civilian airport just a few miles away. Her father owned a small airplane, and they used to fly together from that airfield. There were several other planes there as well. If they can find one that's still operational, they'll save a tremendous amount of time, and the journey will be much safer. Mike hesitates, worried that they'll run into more zombie hordes on the way to the airport. Seeing that the group is divided, David suggests taking a vote. In the end, Abby's plan wins by a vote of 3-2, with everyone jokingly counting the unborn baby as the fifth member of the group. Reluctantly, Mike agrees to take the shortcut to the airport. After traveling only a short distance, they come across a vehicle with flat tires. Everyone inside has been shot to death. Mike tells the group to search a nearby building, hoping previous survivors may have left behind useful supplies. Abby and David head inside to investigate. Unbeknownst to them, a family of 3 is hiding behind a stone wall. Instead, they discover canned food, bottled water, and a wheelchair in the trunk of the abandoned car that could help transport the pregnant woman. As Mike and the others continue forward, the zombie horde discovers the hidden family. The 2 young boys are knocked to the ground and brutally devoured before anyone can save them. Eventually, the group reaches the airport. Looking around, they realize the entire place has been picked clean. Nothing useful remains. Mike sarcastically remarks, "Didn't I tell you we'd just be wasting our time?" Disappointed but unwilling to give up, Abby keeps searching until she spots her father's old aircraft hangar. She rushes over, opens the doors, and discovers that his small airplane is still sitting inside. Mike hands his pistol to the pregnant woman for protection and asks David to stay behind and inspect the aircraft. He then takes Abby with him to search the nearby buildings for any signs of danger. Together, they climb the control tower so they can spot approaching zombies from a distance. Not long afterward, a massive zombie horde pours out of the forest. Mike and Abby rush back to warn the others. They quickly start the airplane's engine, and at the last possible second, the aircraft begins rolling forward. The zombies chase after it as Mike kicks one of them away from the open door. Seconds later, the plane finally lifts off into the sky. Their relief doesn't last long. Mid-flight, the aircraft begins malfunctioning. Thick black smoke pours from the engine before the plane loses control and crashes toward the ground. Fortunately, there's still a glimmer of hope. The aircraft crashes into the tops of dense trees, which cushion the impact enough for all four of them to survive. Mike unfolds the map and realizes they're only one hill away from Boat Town. Reaching it will take about 2 more days on foot, so the group decides to camp there for the night and continue at sunrise. David helps his wife lie down to rest before quietly walking into an empty warehouse carrying a lantern. Meanwhile, Mike hears a noise outside and rushes over, only to find the pregnant woman searching for food because she's starving. As they talk, Mike reveals that 3 months after rescuing Abby, he saved a young boy named Jimmy. Jimmy's mother had been addicted to drugs and was bitten by a zombie while still under the influence. Jimmy, however, was bright, strong, and full of life. He lived with Mike and Abby and was always laughing. Sadly, he was eventually bitten as well, forcing Mike to put him down himself. Since the zombie outbreak began, Mike has faced tragedies like this over and over again. He has been forced to kill countless people he once cared about. Eventually, he stopped getting close to strangers because every new bond only brought more heartbreak. It's not that Mike has become cold-hearted, he's simply trying to protect himself from losing anyone else. While Mike is talking, David quietly pulls out his pistol, intending to take his own life. After several attempts, however, he can't bring himself to pull the trigger. In despair, he rolls up his pant leg, revealing the bite wound. It turns out David has been infected all along. He delays making a final decision because everyone turns at a different rate. Neither Mike nor the others notice anything unusual about David. The next day, the group crosses an open field before entering a nearby forest. David is sweating heavily, and his steps become increasingly unsteady. His wife notices that his forehead is burning with fever, while Mike spots bloodstains on David's pants. After the pregnant woman walks away from Abby, Mike quietly grabs David, pushes him against a tree, and pulls up his pant leg to inspect the wound. Mike immediately draws his gun, ready to shoot, but Abby suddenly calls out to him. Mike tells David to make his decision quickly before heading over to see what's happening. Ahead of them stands a house with its lights on. Mike cautiously approaches as powerful floodlights illuminate the surrounding area. The homeowner warns them over a radio not to come any closer. Ignoring Mike's objections, Abby steps into the light and explains that they're simply travelers passing through. She tells the man they have a pregnant woman with them and are only looking for a safe place to spend the night. The homeowner finally turns off the lights and opens the front door. Mike and Abby enter with their hands raised, placing all of their weapons into a storage box near the entrance. David and his wife follow close behind until all 4 of them reach the living room. Inside, they discover a home with electricity and a respectable stockpile of supplies. The elderly homeowner introduces himself as an engineer and explains that he built his own power generation system to keep the house running. He also grows vegetables and fruit to provide a reliable food source. After finishing his explanation, the old man serves everyone a meal. Although it's nothing more than fresh vegetables, to people who have survived almost entirely on canned food, it feels like an incredible feast. Abby eagerly takes a hot shower for the first time in what feels like forever, while Mike carries their bags into the guest room. There, he notices a laptop sitting on a table. He pulls a USB drive from his backpack and plugs it in. The screen fills with old photographs of Mike and his wife. In the pictures, she's pregnant, and both of them are smiling with hope for the future. Elsewhere in the house, Abby finds an old family photograph of her own. The warmth and comfort of the home remind everyone of the life they had before the apocalypse. The only person who can't relax is the pregnant woman, who realizes that her unborn baby hasn't moved in quite some time, leaving her terrified that something may be wrong. After a short rest, the group gathers in the living room after the homeowner invites them to sit down. He brings out some homemade wine and tells them that he has lived in this house for over 20 years, ever since he got married. Sadly, his wife was killed by a zombie. Although he has heard about Boat Town, he chose to remain alone. As the conversation continues, the old man's hatred for humanity becomes increasingly clear. He believes the virus is nature's way of cleansing the earth and that only the strong deserve to survive in this new world. He passionately defends his beliefs without showing the slightest sympathy for the countless people who have died, making Mike even more uneasy. Meanwhile, David's condition continues to worsen. He walks over to the sink, lifts his shirt, and realizes the infection has spread throughout his body. Trying to stay calm, he returns to the living room only to discover that his wife, Abby, and Mike have all passed out. He immediately realizes that the homeowner drugged the wine. The old man then rolls up his sleeve, revealing a strange device that emits a high-pitched whistle. The sound sends intense pain through David's head. He explains that it's a specially designed whistle that only affects people infected with the virus. The homeowner ties David and the others up before locking them inside his hidden laboratory, where he plans to use them as test subjects for his experiments on a new viral catalyst. No one could have imagined how insane the inventor truly was. A moment later, he reveals an iron cage hidden in the darkness. To everyone's horror, his wife is locked inside, having completely transformed into a zombie. He has been studying the abilities of these new infected creatures and believes David will make the perfect test subject. Only then does the pregnant woman realize that her husband had been bitten by a zombie long ago. The old man opens the cage and uses the whistle to control the zombie, ordering her to attack Mike and the other prisoners. Mike manages to knock her away, causing the zombie to accidentally attack David instead. At that moment, the virus begins enhancing David's physical strength. He easily shatters his chains and engages the zombie in a brutal fight. His incredible power is so overwhelming that parts of the walls begin collapsing. He throws the zombie aside and attempts to free Mike and the others. The homeowner quickly activates the whistle again to regain control, but David fights through the excruciating pain, ignores the pounding in his head, and succeeds in freeing the other three. Mike immediately grabs a gun from the table and opens fire. The 4 survivors rush out of the laboratory while Mike locks the old man inside and tells Abby to grab the car keys from the table. Just as the homeowner smashes through the wooden door, Mike suddenly punches David. He knows he can't allow an infected man to continue traveling with them. Before they can react any further, the old man breaks free, forcing all 4 of them to jump into the car and flee. At the same time, the zombie horde that has been tracking Mike's scent continues closing in. However, an even greater crisis arises when the pregnant woman goes into labor. They desperately need to find a safe place for her to give birth. A massive zombie horde blocks the road ahead. Mike tells everyone to hold on tightly before driving straight through the infected. Although they break through the horde, the zombies continue chasing them relentlessly. Moments later, a fallen tree blocks the road completely, forcing everyone to abandon the vehicle and continue on foot. Boat Town isn't far away. They only have to endure a little longer before reaching safety. Seeing the zombies getting closer, David urges his wife to go ahead with Mike. Since he's already infected, he decides to stay behind and hold off the horde. Mike tosses David a single bullet so he can choose to die with dignity if necessary before helping the pregnant woman continue forward. David lights a cigarette and charges alone into the approaching zombies, fighting with everything he has. Although he has become stronger than ordinary zombies, he is no match for the horde's leader, who snaps his neck before continuing the pursuit. The remaining 3 run as fast as they can until they finally spot the watchtower overlooking Boat Town. Abby sprints ahead, screaming for help. The guards notice the approaching horde and immediately open fire, forcing the zombies to retreat. The group reaches the harbor, where the pregnant woman is taken aboard one of the boats. Mike gently lays her on a bed while a blonde woman stays behind to care for her, asking Mike and Abby to step outside. The people of Boat Town are extremely cautious. They thoroughly examine Mike and Abby to make sure neither has been bitten before informing them that the settlement is called Kingsport. Even though the community saves their lives, Mike can't shake the feeling that something about the place isn't right. The following morning, the colony's leader, George, invites Mike and Abby to meet with him. He warmly welcomes them to Kingsport on behalf of the community, and assures them that everyone can live together peacefully there. Mike, however, tells him that he plans to leave at first light. He understands human nature all too well. At first, people may seem kind and trustworthy, but as time passes, civilization inevitably falls apart. In a lawless world like this, human beings can become even more terrifying than zombies. Abby, on the other hand, is exhausted from constantly running and simply wants to settle down. Their conversation is interrupted when the blonde woman informs them that the baby has been born healthy, but the mother's condition is critical. She may only have a few hours left to live, so if there's anything she wants to say, now is the time. The mother names her daughter Hope, explaining that without the baby she never would have made it this far. Sadly, she knows she'll never get to watch her daughter grow up. She asks Mike to raise hope, wishing that one day she will become as strong as Abby. Unable to refuse her final request, Mike accepts the responsibility. Elsewhere, the story returns to the old homeowner, who is walking through the forest near the river while using his strange whistle. Countless zombies lie dormant on the ground. As soon as the horde leader detects the scent of living humans, he prepares to attack, but the whistle immediately forces him back under control. The old man stares toward the distant settlement of Kingsport, while quietly plotting whatever sinister plan he has in mind. Meanwhile, Mike is forced to remain in Kingsport temporarily to care for baby Hope. Abby quickly adjusts to life on the boats and befriends a young blonde man. Together, they try to forget the horrors of the apocalypse. One night, Abby notices the blonde man secretly walking away with another young woman. Curious, she quietly follows them into the depths of one of the cabins, where she discovers a strange device mounted on the wall. When she asks about it, the young man explains that it's their last line of defense. The entire settlement is rigged with explosives. If the zombies ever overrun Kingsport, they'll destroy the entire place. Abby asks if that means they're all doomed. The young man points toward a passage beneath the boats and explains that years ago a dam was supposed to be built there, so workers dug a tunnel beneath the river. Although the dam project was abandoned, the tunnel remained. If Kingsport falls, everyone can escape through the tunnel before detonating the explosives. The settlement appears completely secure, but the very next morning the old homeowner uses his whistle once again, directing a massive zombie horde straight toward Kingsport. A guard standing on one of the boats is suddenly dragged away by a zombie, and within seconds, dozens more infected flood into the settlement. Mike hands baby Hope to the blonde woman for protection and begins searching desperately for Abby. Although the escape tunnel exists, the attack happens so suddenly that almost no one has time to reach it. While trying to rescue another survivor, Abby falls into a trap set by the old homeowner. Mike shouts and rushes to help her, but a zombie knocks him to the ground. Pulling out his knife, Mike kills the zombie before the old man jumps down and repeatedly kicks him, insisting that humanity cannot defy the laws of evolution. Mike seizes the opportunity, grabs the old man's arm, and smashes the whistle device against the wall. The moment it breaks, the zombies are no longer under his control. They immediately turn on the old man and tear him apart. At the same time, the blonde man leads the remaining survivors through the escape tunnel, while everyone desperately urges him to detonate the explosives before it's too late. The problem is that Mike and Abby still haven't escaped. Just then, the zombie leader attacks Abby. As she looks into his face, she's frozen in shock. The leader of the horde is actually her own father, who was transformed into a zombie years ago. Mike has no time to ask questions. He grabs Abby, and together they dive into the tunnel toward the other survivors. Finally, despite everyone's desperate pleas, the blonde man detonates the explosives, destroying all of Boat Town. Fortunately, Mike and Abby escape safely. But before anyone can catch their breath, the zombie leader suddenly reappears. No one knows how he survived the explosion. Mike charges forward and engages the zombie leader in one final battle. Abby steels herself and delivers the fatal blow to her zombified father. As the sun rises on a new day, Mike decides to lead the remaining survivors in search of a new refugee settlement. And that's where the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget that your opinion matters to us, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more videos.